Welcome to another Erik whiskey study. I'm wrapping up Islay month, February 2019. We started with Ardbeg in the south, then went to Lagavulin, Laphroaig, Bowmore, Bruichladdich, Kilchoman, Cuila, and now we're in Bunnahabhain. This is a special bottle that I brought back from my trip to Islay in June 2019. Comes in this special bag. It feels like a real thick, heavy burlap. And this is a Bunnahabhain hand-filled exclusive warehouse edition, natural colored, unchill filtered. Pretty plain looking tube here. And it's got a handwritten bottle. This is a 13-year-old Marsala finish cask. And before I get into this, here are my notes on this whiskey. The Bunnahabhain 13-year-old Marsala finish, hand-filled, exclusive warehouse edition Islay single malt Scotch whiskey. It's kind of a long title for a whiskey. This whiskey is a distillery exclusive. However, it is available on secondary market for about £60 if you shop around. It is finished in an Italian fortified wine cask from the city of Marsala, Sicily. Marsala is a wine fortified with sherry. It can come in a range of styles, including dry, sweet, golden, amber, or ruby, and be aged anywhere from 1 year, known as fine, to 10 years, such as a Solaris Reserva. Finer Marsalas are aged in a Solera similar to sherry. Marsala tends to have flavors similar to Madeira, which is another Portuguese fortified wine, with notes of apricot, vanilla, brown sugar, and tobacco. The whiskey is unchill filtered, has natural color, and is bottled at 46% alcohol by volume. So I got into this a little bit. It's probably about right here below the shoulder. One of the important things of understanding this whiskey is understanding the finishing, because it has a real heavy hand in this whiskey. You may have had whiskeys that were either aged 100% or finished in an also sherry cask or Amontillado or Pedro Jimenez or perhaps port. You know, these are all fortified wines, or Madeira, another fortified wine. Madeira is very similar in character to, although made from different grapes, different region, but in terms of aromas and flavors, very similar to Marsala. Most people think of a Marsala as some cheap sort of cooking wine. You know, you do a chicken Marsala, but there are also, as you saw there in the notes, some very fine Marsalas as well. I've really been enjoying this, but it's been taking me a little bit to get into it. If you have a profile of a distillery in mind as to what is typical from that distillery, and then you approach something that is really different, that is really from sort of left field from what they usually do, it can kind of like, whoa, what is this, you know? And that's kind of what's going on here. This is a very, very sweet whiskey. Almost dries it towards the end, but it is really, really sweet. On the nose, it has a grapiness to it, sort of like golden raisins, sultanas, a lighter caramel, some butterscotch, some vanilla. It has a slight nuttiness, slight saltiness to it. A light brown sugar. You can get different depths of darkness in brown sugar. You can get that sort of real dark black brown sugar. This is like a light tan color brown sugar. Slight tropical notes. But if you're familiar with Marsala, if you're doing this blind, that Marsala character really jumps out in your mind. So what I want to do is actually get a bottle of Marsala, and on the nose, to start off on the nose, let's do these side by side. So this is a Pellegrino Marsala Superior. This is a sweet. Marsala can be dry or sweet. I did a review for this wine on my wine channel. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video, so if you want to learn a little bit more about Marsala. Color-wise, you can be able to immediately see that this is darker than the whiskey. So, state the obvious, the Marsala is a lot more intense, a lot more concentrated, a lot more dense of the characteristics that I find on the Bunnahabhain 13 Marsala finish, and yet you can see the similarities in there. It's just a cranked up dried sultanas or golden raisins, caramel, a little butterscotch, a slight saltiness, actually a major saltiness to the Marsala, some caramels, a little bit of burnt sugar, brown sugar, and I picked that up a little bit on this one. So by doing this side by side, you can see the similarities, you can see what it's obtaining from the Marsala, and yet you can also see it's still showing its character as a whiskey. If you are drinking whiskeys that are sherry finished, port finished, Oloroso sherry finished, or even I say a Sauterne finish like Dior from Glenmorangie, get to know a little bit, even if you're not a real wine drinker, get to know these wines, and so you can get a better understanding of what they contribute in a cask finish for a whiskey. All right, on the palate, it starts off sweet, finishes semi-dry. It still has a little sweetness in there. Lighter caramels, lighter brown sugars. There's that saltiness to it. That golden raisins, lighter caramels, butterscotch, some slight tropical notes. Really, really nice. Now, Marsala is only at 15 to 20% ABV, so obviously the whiskey is going to be a lot higher than that, but let's give it a taste. Yep, absolutely. This really is, I mean, in its character, a marriage, a real marriage of a very nice whiskey with this fortified wine of Marsala. But the Marsala is only playing, I would say, in terms of intensity of flavor, only playing maybe 15 to 20% of the overall profile. But it's there and it's recognizable. Now, what do I think of this whiskey? You know what? Because of the ABV, going back to the whiskey, it overshadows the Marsala pretty easy, tasting side by side. I'm glad, because I want to go back to this. This is a whiskey that some people are going to really like, and some people are going to really dislike. You might say that about every whiskey, but no, some people, you know, really, really good whiskeys, people who like whiskeys, they might go a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but they're generally going to be in the same ballpark in terms of points or whatever. But I think this is going to be one that some traditional whiskey lovers are just not going to care for, because they're not going to be into Marsala characteristics or Madeira or some of these other lesser consumed fortified wines, or they might not even be a wine fan whatsoever. But I think it's really, really interesting, and it has a particular play to it, and I'm going to give it a solid 89 points. But this is, I also know, really, really clear, this is not going to be for everyone. Alrighty, really, really fascinating whiskey. I enjoy sort of retro engineering whiskeys to see what they contribute. The more challenging ones I find to be table wines, you know, sort of long grows, reds like the Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Malbec, and then more recently they have a Pinot Noir. The wine cask doesn't seem to play a unique and distinguishable note in those profiles. They're great whiskeys, they're fantastic whiskeys, you just can't detect that it's a wine cask finish, other than maybe by the color of it. These, you know, a Marsala cask finish, you can tell Marsala. Port cask, you can tell it's port. Although it's a sherry, you can pick up the sherry notes. However, those other red casks, a table wine cask, maybe not so much. But anyway, I think people will be on the fence about this. I think some people really, really like it. If you happen to visit the distillery, you might want to try before you can buy, if you can. But anyway, but other than that, I think it's a real nice whiskey, and definitely has its place in creating a larger profile of whiskeys from Bunnahabhain. All right, that's it for this review, and we're wrapping up Islay month. Sorry to see it go, but maybe 2020 I'll do another Islay month. Who knows? We'll see when we get there. But we'll be moving on to Bourbon month, and I hope to see you there. All right, until next time, cheers. Hey, if you like my review, be sure to check out these other whiskey videos.